Hi, I am recording a reflection on the discussion that I had with the SPED coordinator about the programs that we have here at Texas Virtual Academy. Um, Due to technical issues, I lost internet and was not able to finish the last few minutes of the interview. Excuse me, which is why I'm recording this. Some of my thoughts when I was discussing with her, I was very surprised because this is a 100% virtual school that I work at. I was surprised by the structure of the way the special ed department worked because we are kind of the middlemen in the education process. There's the school district, and then there's K-12, and we kind of are in the middle as kind of go-betweens. So I was really interested to hear the way that she explained mainly the funding. Since we're kind of middlemen, that's a little bit different. Basically, she was saying that Hallsville pays for everything up front, and then K-12 will reimburse Hallsville. Because Hallsville is the main ISD that we work with for this specific school, then it's interesting. Now, Texas Virtual Academy is almost like a school district in itself because we have from 3rd grade all the way through 12th grade. So it's a little bit different. They do have different coordinators for the different levels of school. We have elementary, which is a 3rd through 5th grade. And then we have the middle school, which is 6th through 8th. And then we have the high school campus, which is 9 through 12. And within the high school campus, it's actually broke down basically grade level wise because we are just so big. We currently have 15,000 students enrolled in Texas Virtual Academy between the 3rd and 12th grades. And a large majority of that is at the high school level. So it makes it a little more complicated. So when talking with the SPED coordinator, I thought it was very interesting. The most interesting thing that I found was when she was talking about our blind students. And because, with blind students, it's a little bit different. I wasn't aware of the level of care that the blind students actually receive. I wasn't aware that they taught them how to read Braille and that they were able to do that through a virtual school. The one thing that they're not able to do is actually do like the occupational type therapy things where they teach them how to walk with a cane and how to go out in their neighborhood. And those types of things, they do actually license with local vendors in order to get that taken care of so that the students have the local help that they need. But everything else is actually dealt with virtually. So that was the most interesting thing. I know also we do have a lot of students that are hard of hearing or deaf. And that is another level of the care that I thought was kind of interesting. All of our online lessons that we teach do have closed caption capability. That is something that is, standard with all of it. The teachers do receive a virtual copy of the ARD notes and all of that. I'm sorry about that. The teachers do receive a virtual copy of the ARD notes. I personally have a document that I keep on my computer, which links a whole bunch of different things together. But one of the things it does include is a copy of the ARD notes, and on there I have check marks for everything that the students are allowed that's on their ARD paperwork. Now, there are some things that are standard because we are a virtual school, and she talked a little bit about that. Things like extra time is built in for all students. Because we are a virtual school, we don't have late penalties and things like that. Students pretty much have the entire semester to do the schoolwork. Now, we do have a couple of lock dates where we lock certain material, but then at the end of the semester, we will reopen that and allow them to complete it. We have credit recovery just like every other school does. As for some of the standard things that we offer, again, because it's a virtual school, we don't do preferential seating. We don't do, that the student is allowed to get up and walk around because, again, they're in their home. They can get up and walk around anytime. All of our lessons are recorded, so students can rewatch them at any time. So recording is always available. Generally, all teachers also provide their PowerPoints and notes to students. That's done in different ways. I know in my classroom, I have a sway that I keep all of the class notes on, all of the review notes, all of the async videos, all of the crash course, all that stuff is linked in one document. Some of the teachers have trouble with Sway, so maybe they use Google Docs or they use like a Google web page. Because we are a Microsoft school and not a Google school, we don't use all the Google stuff, but we still use some of it. But a lot of that is, again, ingrained and built into our system. I know she did speak some about how that looks on her side. I know I was interested to hear kind of the different levels that we have in how the special ed department is structured, and that there are certain people that handle the teaching side or like the class side, and then there's others that handle just the meetings. I think that's interesting because I wasn't aware of that. I know I go to a lot of the meetings, but I wasn't aware that there were the people that do the meetings are literally the ones that just do the meetings all day. Cannot imagine how tiring that would be. I know being in those meetings sometimes can be tiring, and I know the ladies that do it also get very tired, so I'm, kudos to them. It's, again, the way that we structure this stuff is very interesting. I know at the beginning of the year, it's a struggle to get everybody in, to get all those meetings done, get all the paperwork in, and then have to go back because when they first put the paperwork in, that's literally just the transfer paperwork. That's like the temporary. And then they'll go back and hold the meeting and actually put in the real paperwork that works for us. Now, on the documents, they do put a notice at the bottom stating that the student had previously had, X, Y, and Z accommodations, and that those were not included in virtual, but they would be reassessed if the student goes to another location. So that is always included on our documentation so that if the student transfers, things like preferential seating and being able to get up and leave the room and maybe class notes, things that would not be normally included might be added back on there if the student needs them. Now, I also found it very interesting when discussing with her the fact that if a student needs to be assessed and a teacher feels the need and they try to hold the meeting, but the parent refuses to let them be assessed, then the parents actually can overrule that. And I think that's probably the hardest thing for me to understand, because as a teacher, if I see that a student needs extra help, it's in my nature to want to go and who do I need to talk to? What do I need to do? How do we help this student? And and I did have a situation last year where I truly had a student that really, really needed help. And the parents would not allow it. They just shut it down and said the student didn't need anything. And so she just struggled. I mean, it was an 11th grade honors student that could not even write a sentence. So I really felt bad for the student, but it makes me understand a little bit more after talking um, with her that um, after talking with Sarah, I found it very interesting the way that she was telling me that our structure works. Having never really worked in a public school other than online, it was interesting to find that out. Um, I also found it interesting that at her level, which is quite high up, she actually works for all of the schools in Texas, which there are 3 currently. There is Texas Virtual Academy. There is TOPS, which is Texas Online Prep, which is a higher rigor school. They only get into that school if they've passed all of their STARS tests. And then there's a new one, which is, I can't remember the name of it, but it is not for high school. It's only for the lower schools. So that school is pretty new and that's its first year. I don't remember the name of it, but um, those are our current schools, and it's interesting to see that some of our people work in multiple locations, which was another thing that kind of interested me. Again, the biggest thing I'm going to take away from this would probably be the amount of disabilities that our school works with, and the fact that even though we're virtual, we still pretty much check all the boxes on how to handle most of that. The blind education would have to be the most interesting thing for me because I wasn't aware that we did that. I guess because I've never had a blind student. But I think that's pretty interesting. Now, I was aware of our where we have the students either in a self-contained classes versus having them in kind of like a resource room, or having them actually in like an adapted classroom. I was aware of that because I do work with our resource teacher pretty closely, because she has to know what we're doing in classes in order to be able to adapt some of that. Now, she has 2 groups of kids that she works with. The ones that she works with all the time, like they only go to her, they don't go to the regular ed classes. And then we have it where she's kind of like an additional teacher. Like she goes to the regular ed, like they go to the regular ed classes, and then they go see her for additional help. So she's kind of a 2-for-1. She does 2 jobs at one time, and she covers all social studies classes. Like she doesn't do just one class. She does world history, geography, US history, government, economics. She does all of them. So she's amazing. And I think those are probably the most interesting things. I have had students that needed to be moved to self-contained before, and that's not something that they immediately transfer in with. That's an accommodation that they have to put through once they get paperwork. So we may end up with a student for a short period of time, and then once they get the paperwork, they realize the student was in a self-contained class, and then they will withdraw them to the self-contained. That's usually a beginning of the year type of thing. Not usually something that happens this late in the semester, but that is a process, again, that I'm pretty familiar with. I have taught elective courses, and those self-contained students do come to the general ed elective courses in the afternoons. So that's kind of interesting. But that was pretty much all of my reflection. I really, really enjoyed talking to Sarah, and I think I really have a new respect for special ed at this point. Thank you. I hope you enjoy this video. It may be just about 30 seconds short, but I hope it covers everything that I need. Let me know if you need anything else. Have a great day, guys.